Hi there and welcome back to my channel. Today I invite you to discuss different types of questions that we have in English. Previously we spoke about word order in English, we discussed different types of sentences and what word order we should follow in each of them. In particular, we spoke about questions. In that video, you can follow the link to the video up here or in the description to this video. We discussed what order of words we have in questions. But we didn't talk about different types of questions we have in English in detail. So this is what I invite you to discuss today. Let us start. In English, we can easily identify 7 different types of questions. They are general questions or yes/no questions, special questions or WH questions, negative questions, alternative questions, disjunctive questions or tag questions, and indirect questions. We also have echoing questions. We'll talk about them separately, but actually we can say that this is the 8th type of questions. So let's start with general questions. General questions are also called yes or no questions. Why? Because they require a yes or no answer. The formula of such a question you can see now on the screen. Let's look at some examples. Do you like your job? Yes, I do. It's a general question and I can easily answer that question with yes or no. Did she tell you where she lived? No, she didn't. Is she talking on the phone now? Yes, she is. Had he studied Portuguese before he went to Brazil? No, he hadn't. Will you fix the shelf tomorrow? Yes, I will. It's clear why we call these questions yes or no questions. And what's also clear, I hope, is that they ask whether something is true or not in general. Look please now at this question. Are you afraid of snakes? This question obviously doesn't follow our formula, auxiliary verb, subject, verb, object, adverbial modifier, because it only has one verb, and that's the verb to be. I'll remind you, to be is an anomalous finite. I explained that in this video. Anomalous finites can function both as main verbs and as auxiliary verbs. That's why when to be is the predicate of our sentence, this happens. We can only have it in one place of our question. We don't say, are you be afraid or something like that. That wouldn't be a nice English sentence. The most important thing about building questions in English is that you need to remember to put the auxiliary verb to the first place. And when you do that with the past simple tense or with the present simple tense, don't forget about the endings. In the present simple tense, the main verb loses the ending s if the subject is the third person singular. And in the past simple tense, if you use did, you don't use the ending ed or the second form of the main verb. Let's now go to special questions. In special questions, we have one additional component to the previous formula. That's the question word that is put in front of the auxiliary verb at the very beginning of the question. These questions are called special because they set a question to a particular part of the sentence or to a particular word in the sentence. Let's look at some examples. What do they sell in that shop? How much time has passed since you bought the house? Why are those people staring at us? How did you manage to sell your old car? Where are you staying? Let's take the first question, for example. What do they sell in that shop? This question is put to the object. They sell veggies or they sell sportswear. Look please at this question. Why is this here? What is interesting about this question? Again, the verb is to be. We don't say why is this be here? Why is this here? So actually, we don't have any component that should be placed at the place of the verb, right? We only have the auxiliary verb in this sentence. There is a special subtype of special questions. That's the question to the subject. questions to the subject obviously do not contain the subject itself, because they put a question to the subject, and thus the subject is missing from the question. That's why they have this word order: question, word, verb, object, adverb. Questions to the subject can start with the following question words: who, like who told you this? Jane did. What was that? Some noise from the street. Which one? There are 2 phones on the table. Which one is yours? The red one. Which of plus a noun. Which of your dogs is the smallest? Fluffy. How many plus a countable noun. How many guests left the party? 20 people. And how much plus an uncountable noun. How much time has passed? 20 minutes. You can see that in all of these examples, the question word or phrase replaces the subject. It stands in the place of the subject. Now, negative questions. Negative questions follow the same formula as general questions, with the only difference: not is added to the auxiliary verb. Haven't they told you? Weren't they invited to the ceremony? Why didn't you ask me for help? Wouldn't you be pleased to know they were fired? Have you not passed the test yet? The last question is somewhat formal because I separated not from the auxiliary verb. Yeah, that makes the question sound formal. I tried to say all those questions with emotion, with the appropriate intonation, because they express surprise. In English, a negative question is not an alternative to a typical general question. So there is a big difference between asking, have they told you, and haven't they told you? Haven't they told you means that you expected them to have told, and you're surprised. Yeah, you want to confirm some information that appeared to be surprising to you. We ask those questions for confirmation. Now, alternative questions, as we can say by their name, suggest an alternative. Do you prefer pizza or pasta? Did you do it or your sister? Would you like chocolate, raspberry, or chestnut ice cream? What would you like to do today? To stay at home or to go out? Was the person you saw wearing a shirt or pants, or was he naked? If money weren't the matter, would you move to some nice Italian town, or would you rather stay here? So you can see that you can introduce that alternative in any place in your question. This can be a choice between 2 objects or between 2 clauses, like 2 subordinate clauses. What you need to remember is that your alternatives should be parallel, so they should be grammatically equal. So your choices are either 2 infinitives or 2 gerunds or 2 nouns or 2 subordinate object clauses, but they should be grammatically equal. Another important thing to note is your intonation. You highlight your alternatives with intonation. For example, in the second question, I say, did you do it or your sister? Disjunctive questions are also called tag questions because they have a tag or a tail. This tag is formed according to the mirror principle. Let me show you with examples. Anna's a school teacher, isn't she? Alex isn't good at math, is he? So basically this question is formed like a typical declarative sentence. After the SVO, we put a comma and introduce a tag, which contains the auxiliary verb belonging to the tense used in the main part of this question. For example, Anna is a school teacher is the present simple tense and the verb is to be, so as the auxiliary verb is used here. And then we use the pronoun that corresponds to our noun. Anne is she, so we say isn't she. Another important thing is this mirror principle. The main part of this question was built as a positive sentence. Anne is a school teacher. so the tag should be negative. Isn't she? The second sentence, Alex isn't good at math, is vice versa a negative sentence, so the tag is positive. This is also the present simple tense, and the subject is the third person singular, so we use is in the tag, and he is as the pronoun that replaces our noun Alex. Let's look at more examples. You have never been abroad. Have you? This clause, you have never been abroad, is also negative because it contains never. So the tag should be positive. And as the clause is in the present perfect tense, we use have as the auxiliary verb. The train departs at 10 p.m., doesn't it? That's the most challenging case because unlike in the previous three sentences, here the auxiliary verb is absent. And if the train departs, it's a positive statement. In the tag I say doesn't it. It is the pronoun that replaces the noun train. His family lives in a small village in the mountains. Doesn't it? You can also say his family live in a small village in the mountains. Don't they? That depends on how you treat the family, as a group of members or as a unit. In this example, his family lives. It is considered to be a unit, so we use it to replace the noun because a unit, a family, it, yeah, it is, it lives. She won't be happy to hear the news, will she? Won't be is a negative statement, so we have a positive tag, will she? Will she? The function of this question is to clarify some information. Am I right thinking that Anne is a school teacher? Am I right that Alex isn't good at math? And so on and so forth. You seek confirmation with these questions. Look at this disjunctive question. I'm good at chess, aren't I? There is no mistake, because if your subject is I, you don't say amn't I, you say aren't I. Now, indirect questions. Indirect questions start with a phrase that is formed according to the word order of questions, like a typical word order that we have in general questions. And this phrase is followed by a subordinate object clause. These phrases can be, can you tell me? Do you know? Do you have any idea? May I know? Is there any chance you can tell me? And many other synonymous phrases. The object subordinate clause is there because can you tell me what? Yeah, do you know what? May I know what? Etc. The question word order is only followed in this introductory part. The subordinate object clause has the SVO word order, typical for declarative sentences, because the subordinate clause here is not a question anymore. Is Mr. Brown in his office? Let's transform this general question into an indirect question. Could you tell me if Mr. Brown is in his office? You see, is Mr. Brown in his office became Mr. Brown is in his office, because this part is not a question anymore. When does the train to Oslo leave? Do you have any idea when the train to Oslo leaves? What is the purpose of these questions? Indirect questions make your questions less direct, less straightforward, and that's why more polite. At times you might feel that asking a direct question might be rude, so you opt for an indirect question that makes you sound like an educated, polite person. So let's once again look at the word order in such questions. The first introductory part has the word order of a typical general question, and the second part, which is the subordinate object clause, has the SVO word order. You introduce this second part with the help of a question word or with the help of if or whether. That depends on whether your indirect question contains a general question or a special question. Let's see. May I know if Jane has already left? Has Jane already left? It's a general question, yeah? So we introduce a general question in our indirect question, and we do it with the help of if. Could you tell me where this place is? Where is this place is a special question. So we introduce the subordinate object clause in our indirect question with the word where, with the question word where, right? And would you be kind enough to tell me when the post is collected? Again, when is the post collected? A special question, yeah? So it's introduced with the help of the word when. I should also mention that sometimes we can use statements as indirect questions. You can say, I wonder if you can tell me, or I was wondering, or I'd like to know, or something similar, and add a subordinate object clause. And this will function as a question, actually. That will be perceived as a question. Let's see. I'd like to know if Jane has already left. You actually make a statement, but with that statement you request information. I wonder if you can tell me where this place is. I was wondering when the post is collected. Technically, they are not questions, but they function as questions in communication. The last type of questions that we need to discuss today is echo questions. Let's start with examples. I bought a canoe. You bought what? She's gone to Antananarivo. She's gone where? They invited some Mexican band to their wedding. They invited whom? On weekdays, I wake up at 4:30 a.m. You wake up when? Bring me the wrench. Bring you the what? Tom's asked Sam to be his best friend. Tom's asked who to be his best friend? I'm going to jump with a parachute. You're going to do what? Why are these questions called echo questions? Because they function as an echo. They repeat what was said, and that part of the statement that we missed, that we didn't hear clear, is replaced with a question word. So there are two purposes of these questions. You might not have heard what was said and you just want to clarify the information, or you did hear it, but it surprised you or astonished you so much that you wanted to ask again. And you replace that surprising part with an appropriate question word. I bought a canoe. You bought what? Like, why the hell did you buy it? Why? Yeah, so you're surprised, obviously, when you ask it. Now we have a special subtype of echo questions. In this video, I won't go into the depth of grammar theory. I just want to illustrate that with several examples. I heard Michael quitted his job. Michael quit? But why? I want to be a stand-up comedian. You, a stand-up comedian? Don't make me laugh. She thought he cheated on her. Him? Cheat on her? I won't believe it. You've known each other since kindergarten. Don't you think you should reconcile? Me? Reconcile with her after what she has done? Over my dead body. So you see that questions are very emotional. And what you can also spot here is that when the subject is a pronoun, it is in accusative case, not in nominative case. You say him, cheat on her, yeah? And you say me, reconcile with her, not he and not I. It's him and me. What you also see is that the verbs that are echoed, that are repeated, yeah? They're not repeated in the same tense, they are repeated in their first form. Let's look at the first sentence. I heard Michael quitted his job. The past simple tense is used here, yeah, quitted. But in the question that follows, we have quit, the first form of the verb. When do we ask those questions? When we are extremely surprised by something that we have heard. That's all for today. Subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss my other lessons, and see you in the next video.